Welcome to HFY Galaxy Tales. Like this video and subscribe the channel for more HFY stories. Listen, I have been observing humanity for 643 rotations of their home world around their star, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that they are the most magnificently ridiculous species in the known galaxy. They build monuments to gods they aren't sure exist, they wage wars over invisible lines they drew themselves, and they consume fermented plant matter specifically to make their cognitive functions malfunction. It is beautiful. It is absurd. And on the day Kira Valdez touched the gate of whispers, it all made perfect, terrifying sense. My name is Kel. Just Kel. Among my people, the Vornathi, names are earned through accomplishment, not given at birth. I have not earned anything beyond this single syllable, and honestly, I am fine with that. Earning more would require effort, and effort interferes with my primary function, which is documentation. I document everything. The rise and fall of civilizations. The birth of stars. The exact moment when someone realizes they have made a catastrophically bad decision. Kira Valdez was about to give me a lot to document. She was 32 years old by human reckoning, a xenoarchaeologist with the Terran Deep Space Initiative, which is really just a fancy way of saying she got paid to dig around in places that should have been left alone. Brown skin, dark eyes that missed nothing, hair pulled back in what humans call a practical style but what I recognized as controlled chaos barely contained. She wore the standard issue exploration suit, gray and boring, but she had modified the shoulder panels with hand-stitched patches from every dig site she had ever worked. Sentimental. Humans are so wonderfully, foolishly sentimental. The gate stood before us on Meridian 5, a dead world circling a dying star in a system that had no business harboring anything interesting. Except, of course, it did. The gate was 40 meters tall, composed of a material that our scanners insisted was both solid and not solid, present and absent, matter and energy having an argument they would never resolve. It was covered in symbols that predated every known language by at least 2 million years. I had been studying it for 3 months. Kira had arrived 2 days ago. Your report says the symbols change, she said, not looking at me, her eyes fixed on the gate with the kind of intensity that made me nervous. Humans get ideas. Ideas lead to actions. Actions lead to me having to file incident reports. Yes. Every 17 hours and 12 minutes, they shift. We have documented 47 different configurations. None repeat. I adjusted my observation lenses, all 6 of them, trying to see what she was seeing. The pattern suggests communication, but we cannot determine the intended recipient. Maybe it is waiting for the right person to ask, she said. Oh no. I knew that tone. That was the tone humans used right before they did something spectacularly stupid. Dr. Valdez, I must remind you that this structure is potentially millions of years old, created by a species we know nothing about, and every scan we have performed suggests it is still active. Active ancient technology is, how do you humans say it, a terrible idea to mess with. She smiled. Humans smile when they are happy, when they are nervous, when they are lying, and when they are about to ignore every piece of sensible advice ever given to them. This was the latter. Kel, why do you think they sent a human out here instead of just letting you Vornathi handle it? I tilted my head, a gesture I had learned from watching humans express confusion. Because your species has an institutional inability to leave things alone. Exactly. She laughed, sharp and bright, and started walking toward the gate. The ground beneath the gate was smooth, too smooth, like someone had taken reality and polished it until it reflected things that were not there. Kira's boots made no sound as she approached. My sensor array, which cost more than a small planetary economy, screamed warnings in 6 different frequencies. The structure appears to be generating a localized temporal distortion field, I said, following her despite my better judgment. Time moves differently near it. 3.7 seconds slower for every meter of approach. So if I touch it, I might age differently than the rest of the universe, she asked, still walking. That is one possibility. Another is that you might cease to exist across all timelines simultaneously. Or you might be fine. The data is inconclusive. I love how you say that like it is all equally likely. She stopped 3 meters from the gate, close enough to touch if she extended her arm. The symbols were moving now, I could see them, flowing like water made of light and meaning. Have you noticed the pattern in the lower quadrant? 3rd row from the base. I zoomed my primary lens. She was right. There was a pattern, a repetition I had missed in 3 months of observation. It repeated every 49 symbols, a sequence that looked almost like mathematics. It is prime numbers. They are counting in prime numbers. Not just counting, Kira said softly. Calling. They are calling something. Or someone. She reached out her hand. Dr. Valdez, I really must insist that you reconsider this course of action. My translator might have added more panic to my voice than I intended, but honestly, the panic was entirely justified. Noted and ignored, she said, and pressed her palm against the gate. For exactly 2.3 seconds, nothing happened. I had enough time to think that maybe, possibly, the universe would show mercy just this once. Then the gate sang. I do not mean it made noise. Noise is a physical phenomenon, vibrations in air or other media. This was something else entirely. It sang in frequencies that should not exist, in colors that had no names, in emotions that bypassed every rational filter and struck directly at the core of consciousness. I felt it in my thinking nodes, in my memory centers, in the tiny electrical sparks that made me me. Kira gasped, but she did not pull away. The symbols on the gate were blazing now, bright enough to burn afterimages into my sensors, and they were moving, swarming, converging on the point where her hand made contact. And then the gate spoke. It spoke in Kira's voice. Hello, Kira Valdez. You have been expected. She jerked her hand back, stumbling, and I moved forward on my 6 articulated legs to steady her. Humans are not designed for stability. 2 legs. Honestly, it is a miracle they can walk at all. Did you? She started, then stopped. Did you hear that? I heard the gate reproduce your vocal patterns with perfect accuracy, yes. I am also detecting massive energy spikes across the entire structure. And if I might editorialize, I am absolutely terrified. The voice came again, still hers, but there was something underneath it now, something vast and old and amused. Do not be afraid, Observer Kel. You are also expected, though your role is different. You will remember. She will understand. Together, you will choose. Choose what? Kira demanded, and I had to admire her composure. Most humans would be screaming. She just sounded annoyed at not having enough information. The symbols on the gate shifted one final time, and suddenly I could read them. Not translate them. Read them. They were in my own language, the formal script of the Vornathi, and they said. We seeded 47 worlds with potential. 46 have failed. Humanity is the last test. The gate opens in 72 hours. What comes through will determine if your species survives, or if we start again. The light faded. The singing stopped. The gate returned to its inert, incomprehensible state, covered in symbols that once again made no sense. Kira sat down hard on the polished ground. I settled beside her, folding my legs in what I hoped was a comforting configuration. So, she said after a long moment. That happened. That did indeed happen. I have recorded everything. The data will make no sense to anyone, but I have it. She turned to look at me, and I saw something in her eyes that I had seen in humans before, usually right before they accomplished something impossible. Determination. Spite. The absolute refusal to accept reality as presented. Kel, in your 643 years of observing humanity, have you figured out what makes us different? Why we are the last test? I considered the question. You are stubborn. You are creative. You see obstacles as invitations. You build communities out of strangers. You love things that cannot love you back. You hope when hope is irrational. I paused. You touch ancient alien artifacts without proper safety protocols. She laughed, genuine this time. Yeah. We do that. So, what now? I accessed my connection to the research station orbiting Meridian 5. Now, I suppose we inform command that we have 72 hours to prepare for either first contact or extinction. The gate has chosen you specifically for reasons unknown, and I will be filing the most extensive incident report in Vornathi history. Sounds like a plan. She stood, brushing dust from her suit that was not actually there. The ground was too clean for dust. But first, I need you to help me with something. What possible thing could you need help with at this moment? She looked back at the gate, her expression unreadable. The gate spoke in my voice. It knew my name. It said I have been expected. That means somewhere in there, in whatever data or consciousness or nightmare fuel that thing contains, there is information about me. About humanity. About why we are the last test. And you want to access it. I want to understand it. If something is going to judge whether my species deserves to survive, I at least want to know what the criteria are. I should have said no. Every protocol, every regulation, every shred of common sense screamed at me to refuse. Instead, I found myself saying, I will need to recalibrate my sensors. And we will need to establish a baseline for temporal distortion before you touch it again. And I am documenting everything, including my objections. She grinned. I would expect nothing less. We spent the next 6 hours preparing. I set up a sensor grid around the gate, monitoring everything from gravitational fluctuations to quantum foam disturbances. Kira ran through every test we could think of, establishing her baseline neurological patterns, cardiovascular rhythms, even her brainwave signatures. If the gate changed her, we would know. The symbols had shifted again during our preparations, cycling through configurations we had not seen before. I documented each one, searching for patterns, for meaning, for any clue about what was coming. When Kira touched the gate for the second time, she was ready. I was not, but then again, I am never ready for what humans decide to do. They operate on a frequency of controlled chaos that my species stopped trying to predict centuries ago. Her palm connected with the surface. The symbols froze. Every single one of them stopped moving simultaneously, which had never happened before, and trust me, I would know. I had watched this thing for 3 months straight, barely sleeping, documenting every twitch and flicker. The gate did not sing this time. It spoke. Direct. Clear. In Kira's voice, but layered now with something else, harmonics that suggested multiple speakers, or one speaker existing in multiple times at once. You return. Good. Curiosity is the first test. You passed. Kira did not pull away. Her vital signs spiked, heart rate jumping to 130 beats per minute, but her hand remained steady. What are you? Who built you? We built ourselves. We are the architects. We were biological once, like you, like Observer Kel's ancestors, like all the species that crawled from chemical soup to starlight. We transcended. We became pattern instead of matter. Thought instead of flesh. And we grew lonely. I adjusted my recording matrix, making sure every frequency was captured. This was, without exaggeration, the most important conversation in galactic history, and it was happening because a human woman refused to follow safety guidelines. Kira's voice was steady when she spoke. So you created tests. Seeded worlds. Played God with evolution. We gave opportunity. Evolution happened naturally. You, specifically you humans, happened naturally. We only provided the gate. The choice has always been yours. What choice? You said something is coming through in 72 hours. What is it? The gate pulsed, symbols rearranging into configurations that hurt to perceive. My sensors registered impossible geometries, shapes that existed in more dimensions than our universe was supposed to have. A question for a question, Kira Valdez. We will tell you what approaches. But first, you must tell us. Why did you touch the gate? She blinked. Laughed. Actually laughed, sharp and bright and defiant. Because it was there. Because you left it here, obviously meant to be found, covered in symbols that beg to be read. Because my entire species has a pathological need to know what happens next. Accurate. Insufficient. Go deeper. Her jaw tightened. I watched her vital signs fluctuate as she processed the question, really processed it. Humans do this thing where they argue with themselves internally, weighing truths they do not want to admit. Fascinating. Inefficient. Very human. Because I am terrified of dying without understanding. Because the universe is so vast and we are so small, and the idea that there might be answers, real answers to why we exist and what we are supposed to do, I cannot walk away from that. Even if it kills me. Especially if it kills me. Silence. 3.4 seconds of absolute silence. Then the gate spoke again, and this time there was warmth in it, something almost like approval. Better. Honesty is the second test. You passed. Now we answer your question. What comes through the gate is us. Not our physical forms, those dissolved millennia ago. But our consciousness, our accumulated knowledge, our purpose. We will merge with your species. Every human will gain access to everything we know. Every question you have ever asked will be answered. Every mystery solved. Every gap in understanding filled. My sensor suite nearly overloaded. Kira's expression went through approximately 7 different emotions in 2 seconds. That sounds like assimilation, I said, unable to stay quiet. Forced evolution. The elimination of human identity through information overload. Observer Kel raises valid concerns, the gate acknowledged. This is why it is a choice. Kira Valdez, you have 72 hours to decide for your species. Accept our gift, gain infinite knowledge, lose the struggle that defines you. Or refuse, remain as you are, keep your beautiful ignorance and terrible freedom. Kira pulled her hand back slowly. The connection broke, but the gate continued glowing, symbols still frozen in their incomprehensible patterns. You want me to decide? One person. For 8 billion humans. You touched the gate. You asked the questions. You passed the tests. You are, by definition, the one who cares enough to choose wisely. That is insane, she shouted at the ancient alien artifact that could probably unmake reality with a thought. I am just an archaeologist. I dig up old things. I do not make species-wide decisions. And yet, you will. The voice was fading now, receding back into whatever impossible space it emerged from. 72 hours, Kira Valdez. Choose knowledge and transcendence. Choose ignorance and freedom. Choose carefully. We will abide by your decision, as we have abided by the decisions of 46 species before you. Wait, what happened to the other 46? But the gate went silent. Dark. Inert. Just a big, stupid, impossible structure standing on a dead world, holding the fate of humanity in its non-existent hands. Kira turned to me. Please tell me you got all of that. Every word. Every harmonic. Every impossible frequency. I have documentation that will make me either the most celebrated historian in Varnathi society or institutionalized for data corruption. Possibly both. She sat down again. I was learning this was her processing position. Humans need to lower their center of gravity when contemplating existential threats. Kel, what happened to the other species? The 46 that failed? I accessed my historical databases, cross-referencing extinction events with unexplained disappearances. There are records. Scattered. Incomplete. Species that reached the threshold of space travel, showed enormous promise, then vanished. No wars. No environmental collapse. Just gone, as if they had never existed at all. They refused the knowledge. Or they accepted it and could not handle it. The architects are not forthcoming about which choice leads to which outcome. I moved closer, settling my chassis into a configuration that humans interpreted as concerned. Kira, this is impossible. You cannot make this decision alone. I know. But if I tell anyone, if this goes public, what happens? Panic? Religious upheaval? Governments fighting over who gets to decide? Wars breaking out over the choice before we even make it? She rubbed her face with both hands. Maybe that is the test. Maybe the architects want to see if we can handle this without destroying ourselves first. Humanity does have a documented history of poor impulse control under pressure. Thanks for that. She stood, pacing now. Humans pace when they think. Inefficient use of energy, but apparently it helps their cognitive processes. Okay. Let me think. What do we actually know? The architects were biological, transcended somehow, became pure consciousness or information or whatever. They seeded worlds, gave species the chance to join them. 46 said no, or said yes and disappeared. We are number 47. And you have 72 hours to decide if humanity gets uploaded to the cosmic cloud or stays analog. She stopped pacing. Say that again. The cosmic cloud metaphor. It was an attempt at human humor to cope with existential terror. Did it not land well? No, the other part. Uploaded. What if that is the key? The architects said they became pattern instead of matter, thought instead of flesh. They are data. Consciousness as information. And they want to merge with us, give us their knowledge. I followed her logic, running probability matrices. You think the species that accepted became like them? Dissolved into information. No longer biological. No longer individuals. And the species that refused probably got wiped out because the architects figured if you are not interested in transcending, you are wasting space and resources. She looked at me with those dark, determined eyes. It is a trap either way. Accept and lose what makes us human. Refuse and face extinction. Those do appear to be the options presented, yes. Except humans are really, really good at finding the third option that nobody thought of. She smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made me instinctively back up 3 meters. Kel, what if we negotiate? Negotiate. With incomprehensibly advanced post-biological entities who have existed for millions of years and treat species like gardening projects. Yes. That is absurd. Completely. It will never work. Probably not. I am absolutely documenting this. I repositioned my sensors. What did you have in mind? She turned back to the gate, approaching it again with that fearless human stride. The architects said they grew lonely. They transcended, became infinite, gained all knowledge and all answers. And it made them lonely. That is why they are doing this. Not to share knowledge. Not to help lesser species. They miss being limited. They miss the struggle. They miss not knowing what comes next. That is speculation. It is psychology. Humans understand loneliness. We are experts at it. We have been alone in the universe for our entire existence, wondering if anyone else is out there, if anyone else looks up at the stars and asks the same questions we do. She placed her hand on the gate again. Hey! Architects! I know you are listening. I have a counteroffer. The symbols flickered. Hesitated. Then blazed to life. Speak, Kira Valdez. You want companionship. You want to remember what it feels like to be limited, to struggle, to not have all the answers. Fine. Here is the deal. You give humanity access to your knowledge, but not all at once. Not forced. We choose individually, person by person, question by question. You get to experience limitation again through us. We get answers when we need them. Symbiosis, not assimilation. The gate went dark for exactly 7 seconds. When it lit up again, the symbols were different. Softer, somehow, if ancient alien writing could be soft. Interesting. Unexpected. Humans always surprise us. This is why you are the last test. Elaborate your terms. Kira glanced at me. I gestured with my forward manipulators in what I hoped conveyed go ahead, you are doing better than I expected, please do not get us both eliminated from the timeline. Every human gets a choice. Access the architect knowledge or do not. Those who choose yes can ask questions, get answers, learn at their own pace. The knowledge does not overwrite who they are. It supplements. You, the architects, you get to experience curiosity again through us. Every question we ask, you remember what it was like not to know. Every discovery we make on our own, you feel that again. And when we inevitably screw things up because we are human and that is what we do, you get to experience failure and uncertainty. Things you have not felt in millions of years. Silence. Long enough that I began calculating evacuation routes. Then the gate spoke, and impossibly, it sounded pleased. You offer us limitation as a gift. You weaponize your ignorance. You turn weakness into bargaining power. This is magnificently human. We accept your terms with one addition. You, Kira Valdez, must be the first. You will carry our voice. When humans have questions, they come to you. You become the bridge. Wait, what? No. I did not sign up for being the galaxy's cosmic librarian. You touched the gate. You negotiated with the infinite. You volunteered the moment your curiosity exceeded your caution. Do you accept? She looked at me. I looked at her. We both knew she was going to say yes. Humans cannot resist a role that lets them help people, even if it costs them everything. Fine. Yes. I accept. But I want it on record that I think this is a terrible idea and I am definitely going to need therapy. The gate pulsed once, brilliant and final. Agreed. The merge begins in 72 hours. Prepare your species, Kira Valdez. And observer Kel, continue documenting. Humanity will need someone to remember how this began when they forget to ask. The light faded. The gate returned to dormancy. Kira pulled her hand away and immediately sat down hard on the ground. I just negotiated with gods, she said. Technically, post-biological entities who fancy themselves gardeners of consciousness, but yes, essentially gods. I settled beside her. You saved humanity by offering them the one thing they did not have. Limitations. Uncertainty. The experience of not knowing. It was brilliant. It was desperate. The best human plans usually are. We sat there for a while, two beings from different species, on a dead world, having just renegotiated the future of one civilization and possibly entertained another. The gate loomed above us, silent now, keeping its secrets. Kel, Kira said eventually. When this is over, when humanity has access to infinite knowledge and I am some kind of cosmic reference desk, will you still document things? Will you still watch us and take notes and judge our ridiculous decisions? I considered the question with all 6 of my thinking nodes. Absolutely. Humans with access to ancient knowledge will be even more unpredictable than humans without it. My work has only just begun. She laughed. Genuine, warm, exhausted laughter. Good. Someone needs to remember we did not know what we were doing. That we made it up as we went along. That we touched the ancient gate and somehow convinced it to negotiate. I will remember, I promised. That is what I do. And I have. Every moment. Every word. Every impossible choice. Humanity accessed the architect knowledge 3 days later. Not everyone accepted. About 30% refused, choosing beautiful ignorance over infinite answers. The architects found this fascinating. The ones who accepted, they learned, they grew, they asked a million questions and the architects, through Kira, answered them all. And somewhere in the vast network of consciousness that binds the architects together, I like to think they smile. Because they are learning too. Learning what it means to not know. To wonder. To be limited. Learning what it means to be human. I am still documenting everything. I will document until the stars burn out. Because someone needs to remember the day a human woman touched an ancient gate, demanded terms from gods, and won. This is Observer Kel, signing off. The universe remains ridiculous. Humanity remains impossible. And I would not have it any other way.